How's it going, everyone? Jesse Morgan here, aka Jesse Slamorella from the Slam Bros distro and Humanectomy band. This is another episode of Jesse Talks Metal, and this is going to be about black metal and the origins. Now, to start off right away, for you that know already about all this stuff, hold on till maybe the end of the video. There's going to be some stuff you may or may not know about, and I give kind of my own personal opinion on it, and some shoutouts. For everyone else, sit back and enjoy. Now, the origins of black metal started roughly in the 1980s, maybe mid-80s, stemming from elements of thrash and death metal that came from Europe. Now, this was the first wave, technically, of black metal, and the bands that started this were Venom, Bathory, Celtic Frost, Celtic Frost if you want to pronounce it that way, Hellhammer, and Morbid. And the bands like these kind of started the sound that we know today as the second wave of black metal. They weren't necessarily black metal themselves, but they were basically the turning points of what made it what it is known as today, and so on. The bands that we're more knowledgeable about when it comes to black metal is the second wave, like I said, and that includes Old Funeral, Mayhem, Burzum, like I'm wearing today, Darkthrone, Gorgoroth, Emperor, Immortal, Thorns, Marduk, Dark Funeral, and Niflheim. Anyone who's into black metal probably has a few of those in their collection, as do I. Looking forward to getting a lot more. Now, musical trait-wise, you're going to hear a lot of raw or cold, or what is known as necro-sounding production. They're trying to escape this really clear-cut, overly produced death metal sound that was happening at that time. And it was kind of their rebellion against that sound, and they just wanted to do their own thing and really kind of just break out of that mold and just create their own sound musically and all that. Tuning, I've found, is normally an E standard, E flat, maybe even E sharp, but it doesn't really include too much down-tuned guitars when it comes to black metal. It's usually the death metal style of music that has like really low tuned guitars, like C standard, drop C, B standard, etc., even drop D, and stuff like that. So that's what you're going to be running into when you hear black metal. Like I said, for anyone that knows what I'm talking about already, this is just basic shit that you would know right offhand. For anyone else who hasn't really been that observant of black metal and is just kind of getting into it, this is be new to them, so just bear with me. Like I said, you're gonna have a lot of tremolo riffs, you're gonna have some dissonant riffs, anything that's kind of dark and sinister in composition, that just doesn't have too warm of a feel, too brutal, I guess you would say. It's brutal, but it's in a different way. It's in a really icy, cold kind of manner of doing such. A lot of the lyrical content includes paganism, anti-Christianity, anti-establishment stuff. They even push it so far as to satanic rituals and satanic praise, etc. There's a lot of death still being talked about, even though it's black metal. Even some go as to just talk about winter and the coldness of their area and their culture, taking back their stolen land, or talking about their personal freedoms, etc. That's basically what's a lot attributed with the black metal music. I'm not going to really talk too much about the Norwegian black metal drama scene with all the murders and all that backstory. If you want to check that out, definitely go look up documentaries like Satan and the Music Scene, or Black Metal Satanica, I think maybe that's what it's called. But I always recommend this documentary if you're getting into black metal. It's called Until the Light Takes Us. I was lucky enough to get a physical copy of this. Stoked I watch it at least once a month and bug the wife with it. But I will put a list of documentaries to check out if you're just getting into black metal, or if you like black metal and just want some more kind of watching material and stuff like that to check out. I'll put a list of documentaries to look out for and maybe try to find. I do have a few personal thoughts on black metal. I don't feel that someone just gets into black metal for the music itself. I'd say, in fact, that the music of black metal is the resulting product of a way of life and a belief system. For an average person to just, listen to black metal, they would say, what the fuck is this shit? They're screaming and the guitar is just noise. This is garbage. How do you listen to this seriously? And I would just have to obviously let them know that it's not just what they're hearing. It's not just the guitar, the screaming, the drums, and the crappy, cold necro recording production sound. It's not just what you're hearing. There's a little bit of a cultural belief system incentive to listen to this kind of stuff, at least for myself, that I found. You wouldn't tell by fucking looking at me, I'm whiter than shit, but I have native background in me, and I've done some research on where my Mohawk people have come from, where we've kind of established ourselves in the native Canadian cultural grounds, and I found it's what's happened to my people, and I say that with greatest regards because I'm maybe 6th or 7th generation. So I'm saying my people in a very Gatorade version, very watered down, but I still find what happened to my people a good reason for me to enjoy black metal other than just the music itself. I mean, the Christians and Catholics and that kind of people from Europe came over here as well and pushed their ways upon my ancestors, and if they didn't follow their God of light and take that belief system onto their own, they're put into enslavement, they were murdered, their women were had their way with, let's just say. They their kids were brainwashed and kidnapped and brought up under their own belief system, and anyone that opposed was quickly dealt with in a very violent and very strict manner. And that's why I feel with these people in Norway and Scandinavia and Europe that had to deal with this Christian plague, I guess, as they call it, and a lot of their belief systems and cultures were they were bulldozed. Their sacred burial grounds, their sacred circles of masses and getting together for whatever were just completely covered up by Christian crosses, Christian churches, and any of their cultural beliefs were burned and deleted from any systems that were set in place there. And it was just completely disrespectful in the way they did it. It was completely tyrannical the way they did it. And that is another way that black metal sits with me and resonates with me, just beyond the music. And that's it. If black metal was born out of rebellion and outrage, a social war against the mainstream and the churches, it's a personal statement, really, kind of saying, no, I will not succumb to your religious oppression and societal norms and limitations. A rebellion against stereotypical beauty and cleanliness and conformity that everyone was pushing on them. Black metal is kind of like a mockery of life and false humanity, which is why I think they recorded with such a lo-fi and raw sound and production. It's kind of like, fuck you to the mainstream and to what everyone expected of them, and which is probably why they purposely dressed like dead people with black clothes and spikes and all this kind of very aggro kind of just anti-human, anti-life kind of mentality. And they're just sickened by how sheep-like and complacent the world was and had become, and how their culture, like I said, had just been bulldozed by the Christians and the Catholics and all that kind of stuff. And I'm pretty sure anyone that has native or cultural background that isn't Christian can relate to having those beliefs and ways forced upon you, and black metal really speaks up with those beliefs and against the Christian parasite. So that is basically the origins of black metal, and why a lot of people that listen to it and a lot of people that write it and listen to it. There's more than just the music. There's like a whole cultural and belief system there, and basically that is why you won't find too many mainstream people listening to it, or mainstream society accepting it, and why it'll probably always just be underground music for the most part. Black metal's even widely hated against by other genres of metal and people that live in those genres and lifestyles of the metal and the underground, just because it's such a blatant fuck you to the rest of the world because of what they've had to endure and put up with. So yeah, that's about it. All I have next is just kind of the shout outs to some Canadian black metal bands for you guys to check out. I've still got a shit ton of more research to do and a lot more bands to look at. I've got a huge ass list of Canadian black metal bands on my Helvet Canada page on Facebook. If you want to go check that out, I'm getting better and better at posting stuff more often, but still looking for a couple of admins to help me out with posting links and different things like that every day. Anyways, these are some Canadian black metal bands to check out if you are interested. Forteresse, Gris, which I think is French for grey, Panzerfaust, Nortt, Ord, Frost from Quebec, Empyrean Plague, Defiled Majesties, Blackscorn, Sammas, I hope I pronounced that properly, Pagan Ritual, which I've had the pleasure of seeing here in Oshawa in southern Ontario, Firecult, I definitely need to pick up some of their CDs, they're amazing stuff, and AMSG, I think that's Ad Majorem Satanas Gloriam, which means the greater glory of Satan. They're a decent Canadian black metal band. I'm assuming they got their name from one of Gorgoroth's albums. And finally, the last one I'm going to mention is Burning Moon. Really good stuff. There's tons out there. I'm sorry if you're watching this and you're in Canada and you play in a black metal band and I didn't mention you. There's just a shit ton of us black metal bands and listeners in Canada, and I'd be sitting here for hours listening them all off. So if you're watching this video and you're in a band and you're black metal and you're from Canada, definitely give a shout out for yourself in the comments section so everyone can check you out and give yourself some more promotion. Definitely needs to be a lot more recognition for Canadian black metal because it's a great scene, and I'd be honored to be mentioned among any of you. So cheers, thanks for watching, stay sick.